The Writer's Dossier Podcast is a proud member of the Authors on the Air Global Radio Network.
My name is Alex Kenna, and this is my Writer's Dossier.
Just tell me. Just stop me and say, hey, wait, can we do that over? And I'll do it. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you for doing this. You're so cool.
Thanks for having me.
No writers were harmed in the production of this podcast.
Hey, everybody. Hi, welcome back. I'm Jeff Circle with another episode of the Writer's Dossier. We're coming to you here from the Writer's Dossier studio, which is actually an old refurbished storage room that I built wine racks for. So we had to redo the entire room, and now it's a speakeasy. So today in the speakeasy, Alex Kenna, a super person. I am so excited to have you, Alex. Thanks for joining the Writer's
Thanks
Dossier
for having
today.
me.
Yeah. You are so super cool. And I mean that because you and I, we've crossed paths now for a couple years and we see each other all the time at writers conferences and we email and text back and forth with different things. Hey, what's going on? This and that. Folks, get to know Alex Kenna at alexkenna.com.
Yeah, it's super out of date, but that is technically my website.
I just pulled that off the top of my head, and I know you're really active on social media. So, folks, we're going to have all of Alex's contact information in the show notes. But right now, we're going to talk about Alex's books because she's written a couple bangers. And I got to tell you, Alex, and I know I keep saying this every time we're together. What Meets the Eye? That's the name of the book, right?
The first one, yeah.
I knew it, but I bet I just had this last minute. Wait, crap. Right. My brain. I'm taking these functional mushrooms. If I had one, I would hold it up. Like, see, I've got Mindy Carlson does the thing with it. And I hold stuff up. Hold it up, definitely.
All right, have a copy.
All right, cool. Woo!
All right.
Okay, so one of the things that I absolutely love about you, and I've been banging on this for a couple years, and I know I keep bringing it up, so I'm sorry to sound like a broken record to you and everybody else out there, but What Meets the Eye really got my attention. That was your debut novel with Crooked Lane Books, right?
It was, yeah. I have a
there it is. I love it. So What Meets the Eye? The coolest thing about this is I was working at a museum at the time. I have a really deep background in security, and I've got a great museum here in Northwest Ohio. And I ran across your book, and I love debut authors. So the two just really came together. So first, thank you for writing What Meets the Eye. Everyone needs to discover this book, and they should start there. Get right into your whole series. And then now you got a follow-up that's been out, Burn This Night. I want to know so much about those books and why you wrote them, because people need to understand you've got a really cool background. Talk about, if you would, made you, based on all this stuff that you have in your background, what made you choose What Meets the Eye as your debut novel?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to I have a background in both painting and in criminal laws. I studied art in undergrad. I graduated with a painting degree in the Great Recession. So I went to law school and started prosecution. But I wanted to go back to my art days and kind of it's a very strange world. There's a lot of narcissism, a lot of personality. When I was kind of, I guess, coming of age as an artist, there was shock art was kind of the thing. You had people, there was one artist who her whole thing was like, I think she pretended to be giving herself abortions and called it art. It was all over the news. It was just, there was another woman who was, a couple years before me, and, she had a bed where she like wrote the names of everyone she slept with and called it art. It was just, there was a lot of kind of things designed to shock people. And it kind of, lended itself well to crime fiction. So I had the idea of this character who kind of created art that kind of blended and blurred the line between criminal behavior and art. And that was my victim. And although she's dead, but I have a lot of characters a lot of chapters where she kind of comes back to life or she makes an appearance in flashbacks.
Yeah.
And then so I want to talk about the art world. And then I also wanted to talk a lot about art forgery because I got really interested in that.
Mm-hmm.
And during the pandemic, we got addicted to this really nerdy British show called Fake or Fortune, where people think they found a Picasso in the attic. Oh my God. And it's their meal ticket. And then these, nerdy British people, either tell them that their dreams are going to come true or not. And like, I was binge watching this stuff, and my poor, like, long suffering husband is like, can we please watch anything else?
Please watch the British baking show instead.
Yeah, it's like, can we go back to the one where they make cakes at least? but he's a good sport. So yeah, I got really interested in that. And so there's an art forgery component. My main character
Yes.
is Kate Miles. She's a PI who is an ex LAPD officer. I shouldn't say she's based on anyone I know, but I was very inspired by these really badass female police officers who I worked with as a DA. And there was one woman in particular who, like, she was like the confession master. She was beautiful and kind and tough and just smarter than ever. She was the smartest person in the room, but in a very down to earth way. And she would just get in a room with people, like, and all of a sudden they just started confessing everything.
Yeah.
It was, hey, let me ask you a question. And then she'd like get him. So yeah, that was something I wanted to bring in. So she's kind of based on that, but I gave her kind of a more of a dark and gnarly past because it's crime fiction. So that was what meets the eye.
I loved What Meets the Eye because I love art. Like I said, I was working at a museum, so I'm looking at these paintings and thinking about, are any of these a forgery? Or I'll be in the basement of the museum on a security tour, and I'll run across some stuff. I'm like, is this worth something? So your book, What Meets the Eye, just brought out so many curious things for me and what I was doing. And there are a lot of people out there who love art. So if you like art, anything about it, definitely get this book. But those of you, this is a crime thriller, mystery novel. Alex brings that law enforcement, LAPD, district attorney type prosecutor angle to it too. She blends them together, folks. This is a wonderful book. I absolutely loved it. And so I got to thank you for writing that. And yeah, Kate Miles, just a cool, reminds me of Joe Navarro is the male villain of that. Joe Navarro was an FBI agent who was like the confessioner guy. He could walk in a room and just talk to people and just over a period of time get to know their ticks and know when they're not really being totally forthcoming. Yeah, Kate Miles, What Meets the Eye, folks, get it because Alex is a riot. Just totally qualified to write this book. All right, so then you went to Burn This Night. And so as you were inspired on your background for your first novel, your second one also has some roots in real life too, right?
Well, for sure. Here, because I'll do the cheesy.
Yeah, that one. There you go. Yeah, Burn This Night. Great cover, great title. Tell us about that and why you wrote it.
So Burn This Night. First, I wrote it to function as a standalone. So it honestly, it doesn't really matter which one you read first. But I had someone in my life who basically slowly destroyed their brain with meth. And as a prosecutor, it was something that I saw all the time. There's this kind of really underreported mental health crisis in Los Angeles, where you see it a lot on the streets, and you see it a lot in the courtroom, where you have these insane crimes that with just no logic behind it, because the meth that we've seen for the last 10 years is really, really pure. It's basically like Breaking Bad stuff, and people end up with massive amounts of brain damage really quickly. So I wanted to work that into a book, but that can't be the whole book because it's gonna be too depressing. You're gonna put it down in about 2 seconds. But my one character his name is Jacob. He is basically slowly destroys his brain with meth over the course of the book, and he's accused of starting a fire that wiped out part of this town and killed his sister. And then my character Kate, she comes in and she's hired to solve that crime, and she's simultaneously looking to a second murder after learning that she is sorry.
Yes. We've got the dog. I love it.
We have a 100-pound giant schnauzer who's the alpha female in the house, and she will do what she will.
That's right.
But yeah, okay. The person upstairs probably just left. I'm sorry. Should we just?
No, this is fantastic. People are loving this right now. That's right, folks. Alex Kenna has a 100-pound giant schnauzer, and she's a wonderful dog. And those of you who remember, I mean, my little chicken nugget Gabi made an appearance recently too. Said, no, it's absolutely great. Keep on going. So, all right, this guy it's not a terrible meth story, but it's true to real life, because you and I saw it in New Orleans last month. These people are just messed up, and the underreported and the non-treated mental health crisis that's everywhere. A lot of it's contributed to these crazy drugs.
Yeah. So that was kind of one story that I wanted to tell. And I wanted to kind of take on the challenge of having this recurring character who was essentially a different person every time he reappeared, because as he kind of deteriorated. And then simultaneously, I have Kate looking into this cold case. She learns essentially through a 23andMe type website that her father's not her biological father, and also she's distantly related to a cold case killer, and gets kind of brought into that investigation. And that was based on there have been some real life cases where people have basically, the police officers put a person's DNA into these websites, and all of a sudden they find a fourth cousin, and then end up working backwards. And they've caught serial rapists and killers this way. But I also wanted to just explore what it's like to suddenly learn that your whole family background isn't what you thought it was. And I went down the rabbit hole of these websites of persons who've made this discovery. There's a lot of podcasts out there because it's happening all the time now with 23andMe, and people had these incredible stories. And then just I was very fascinated by the head trip that causes. It's like you've always wondered why you were a little different from everyone else. And it's, so that was another thing that I pulled in. But honestly, I just I have a touch of ADD, or maybe more than a touch. So I kind of just get interested in different things. And then the challenge is, how can I kind of weave all of my current obsessions into a story? And that's kind of where both of my books came from.
No, it is. It's fantastic because I loved what you did at the beginning of Burn This Night. You do this thing where you have real life events that people are familiar with. And so this one, obviously, okay, no spoilers here, but there's fire involved, obviously. And right off the bat, people know, there are wildfires going on in California and Canada and everywhere. So it's on our radar. But when you're reading it in I think it's right in your first chapter, I get to the end of this and I'm like, holy crap. I feel like I'm out on the street watching that glow in the distance and seeing the ash start to fall like you described. You put me right there. Without having to go through it. So thank you.
That was basically real life. I used to live right now. We just basically left Los Angeles. We're in Washington State. We lived, right up against the mountain. And, before I wrote the book, we had to evacuate from a fire. I remember I was like super pregnant. It's the pandemic. And then we walk outside and all of a sudden there's a wall of fire coming towards us. At which point we're like, okay, well, I guess the world's just ending. So we left, and it was literally, there's no way to describe the feeling of just this massive natural disaster that's just coming at you. And then after I wrote the book, we ended up evacuating again because the fire came very close to our town. We were very lucky that our town was largely spared, but it happens all the time in Los Angeles. And the town where I set the book, it's based on a town called Wrightwood, where my husband and I had stayed when we were renovating our house. And I changed the name because they had a fire. And after they had a fire, I didn't feel comfortable creating a fake fire in their town, with their name. It just felt a little bit insensitive. So it happens all the time. It's just, if you're living in LA, 90% of the time, you feel like you've made nature your bitch and you don't even see a tree other than a palm tree. And then the other 10% of the time, nature tries to kill you.
Bam. Yeah, it does.
So it's a central part of living in Southern California.
No disrespect to Southern California. There's some good parts of it, but I'm glad you're out of there. So when you told me you were moving, find somewhere that just something's not going to kill you.
We were like, where is the weather terrible? Okay, we're moving to Seattle.
I know. Screw you, sunshine. I hate you.
It rains 3 months a year. Please give me.
All right. Hey, so one of the coolest things that I like about you, and I think people will appreciate in those shows in your writing, is your appreciation for art and your actual skill and talent there. But there's also a music component too. So I think you mentioned it a little bit earlier. You were always kind of leaning on the artsy side. Somehow you ended up in a left turn and went to law school. But you look in the mirror, or when you're laying there and you're like, who am I? Who's Alex? What would you do if you weren't writing? And, money wasn't an object for the most part. Would you want to paint? Would you want to play the dulcimer or some other, I don't know, mouth harp or something? What instrument would you play?
Oh, God. I haven't touched the dulcimer in a while just because I'm super busy. So that skill is gone. But mostly it's just ukulele and occasionally harmonica at this point.
I love it. Ukulele. Yes.
Oh, yeah. It's very underrated as an instrument because
it is.
It's democratic because you can have no talent with like me and still learn how to play it. So it's, if you're out there and you always want to be wanted to tackle the guitar, you wonder if it's too late. It is, but it's not too late for the ukulele. So that's my My public
Folks,
service announcement for an unsung instrument. And there's
unsung.
banjo-lele.
And there's a uniform that goes with the ukulele. I think it involves a grass skirt and coconut bra.
Yeah, I just turned 40 and I've had 2 kids, so we're probably not gonna break out the grass skirt and the coconut bra anytime soon. But if that's always an option for people.
Well, hey, you don't have okay. So Southern California, you could have gone to Hawaii, but we're close to where you are. There's a place, and this is a little travel service announcement. The San Juan Islands. Are you familiar with them up there?
Yeah, I haven't. I've been to a couple of the island of not the San Juan Islands, but other kind of Pacific Washington State islands. I haven't made it up there yet, though.
So for your next promotion, we want you on an island playing a ukulele. You can pick one of the San Juans, and then we'll put your book up in the background. Here's Alex. I mean, that's right there is media gold. It's sell 1 million copies.
Sure. Yeah. I'll do whatever. I'll jump off a Washington State ferry if it's going to sell books. I mean,
Speaking of doing whatever, how did you land a deal with Crooked Lane Books? And Sarah, J. Henry, super editor, we talked a bunch at BoucherCon in New Orleans last month. How's that going? And how did you do that? Because we have a lot of new authors, debut authors, breaking in authors. Give them your secrets. How can they be like you besides trying to be so cool?
yeah, it's a hustle. I mean, I had tried to sell a different book before What Meets the Eye. It didn't end up panning out. It was a political thriller in the wrong time and place. I wrote a bunch of query letters. I pitched a bunch of people. It didn't work out. And then right before I was going to have my son, honestly, I thought, fuck it. And I sent it to a publishing house. And the person who was reading the submissions that day, it wasn't Sarah, it was but it was somebody who doesn't work there anymore, happened to be an art fan. And I think it's literally if baseball guy had been going through the slush pile that day, it wouldn't have happened. So, it was kind of like being struck by lightning. But I will say, if anybody is out there inquiring, I collected query letters from people who landed deals or landed agents, and I put them on my website. There's just
that
a
was
section.
such a cool thing you did.
It was really helpful too, because some people are just really good at it. I think Scott Blackburn is a great letter. Jamal Mayfield has a really good letter, and people have told me that they use them as the basis for their own query letters. So that's, I think, a good resource. I put my own one on there, but it's probably more of a good example of something that's mediocre and got passed up 40 times, but it's there. You want to see it. So yeah, that's my one pitch for that.
Hey, last question here, because we keep this down to commute time so people actually can listen to the whole episode and not have to come back and listen to an hour. You said a second ago that it's a hustle. And part of that for you is getting out there. I saw you in Denver this year. I saw you in New Orleans this year. I saw you in Nashville last year. How important is it for you to get out there, both to like writers' conferences or get involved in social media groups and contacts and texting, but commenting on threads and just connecting with people like you? And I have Adam Plantiga, as a connection, and I'm wearing Detroit for you, Adam. How important is it to make those connections that in ways that help you promote your brand and get your book noticed?
I mean, it's everything. I mean, you occasionally hear the story of the person who just kind of sat in their kitchen and did nothing and their book exploded, and then every other writer hates them. It's
I know, right?
Yeah, for the rest of us, unless Oprah picks up your book and it's the book club of the month or whatever, then it's the only thing you can do. You have to get out there, you have to meet people, you have to get the word out, and the writing community is amazing. It's a bunch of down to earth, creative people who support each other. And if you promote people, they promote you back. And it's kind of buoys you in the lean times too, because sometimes you hear no, sometimes you have disappointments, and having that community to rely on is everything.
Well, Alex, would love to get you in our next anthology. We just published a short story collection, and you have a lot of talents and a lot of skills. I want to continue to share your story with people. And so thank you for getting out there the way you do. Thank you for coming on podcasts. Thanks for doing the dossier at least 2.5 years ago. It is always great to see you. And I think everyone needs to learn more about you. Go to alexkenna.com, check the show notes for social media. What's your most used social media platform right now?
Probably Facebook at this point.
Yep. It's big, broad reach. Folks, get on Facebook, connect with Alex, kind of follow her. And I had one last question. I know that one was the last question, But I had one more I thought about. If you weren't doing any of this stuff right now, what would you be doing with your life?
Do I have money in this scenario?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm interpreting this to mean that I do have money, where I'm just going to I'm going to buy myself a condo on the left bank in Paris, and I'm going to write murder books and paint.
Yes.
And hire a babysitter.
Hire a babysitter. Au pair, right?
And if my boss is listening, also be a lawyer.
Je m'appelle Langlais Lebu. Alex, thanks so much for joining us. I can't thank you enough, and I'm so excited for you, and I can't wait to see what's next. So, folks, check out Alex Kenna.
Great.
Thanks.
Thanks for having me.
You betcha. Bye, everybody.
The Dossier Podcast is a production of The Idea Academy.